Rated M for mature.
Warpony. Friendship is chaos. A Warhammer 40k, My Little Pony Cross. By Insanity Pie. Prologue.
No! You didn't!
And in that moment, it happened. A sphere of pure light shone from Celestia's horn, straight through Twilight's heart. Too fast for a counterspell. Not that Twilight had been in any state to cast one. It was over.
I'm sorry, Twilight. It's my fault.
Twilight gasped as she recovered from her ruined Dreadclaw. Sweat dripped all over her body, but she knew it wasn't from the ruined craft's heat, nor the shock of being blasted from orbit. Taking another deep breath, she composed herself. She hated dreaming. Her honor guard, or what remained of them, lay in pieces all around her. She grimaced, looking for her attackers. Her face expressionless as she spotted a heavy weapons team of Space Marines, their armor green, with a white emblem of that of a sword with wings. Her horn glowed as her anger was focused to a beam of pure energy, shortly followed by a massive explosion where the Space Marines once were. Now only a crater remained. She smiled for a minute at her handiwork, before going expressionless once again and returning her gaze to the battlefield. She thought. Showing no emotion, she nodded to herself and stepped forward, crushing enemy survivors. One man's screams was cut off as his torso was crushed under Twilight's massive talon feet. Casting her friends forever spell, the ruined bodies and armor of her honor guard were all turned to dust, only to reform into a ball of white light and fire. They followed their mistress out of the flames and wreckage, before exploding into existence once again.
Hate when that happens,
said Axel. The massive traitor Marine cracked his neck before continuing.
So, what now, mistress?
Almost in unison, the others turned to Twilight for instructions. She smiled. Twilight reached out, making a fist. At the same time, an enemy Baneblade caved inwards, smoking at first. Then it exploded. It showered shrapnel in all directions, killing and wounding enemy infantry who sought to use the massive war machine as cover. She looked around, satisfied that nothing would be strong enough to shoot her down. Twilight spread her wings and took flight. Twilight flew alone, having dispatched her honor guard to locate and relay orders to Applejack, who was pressing her forces from the south, and Fluttershy, who was attacking from the east. She looked in the direction of the Thunderhawk, and where it was headed. Applejack wouldn't need backup. damned Eldar and their human allies, combined psychers, left their communications to a minimum. Not to mention the intense fighting going on in orbit just above the atmosphere that made the sky glow orange, and sometimes even red. Twilight and her friends bit their lower lips every time it got that color. Twilight had set off on her own, as she usually did, to pass on orders to Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash. Those two always seemed to get a little out of hand, and sometimes even risking the operations in doing so. Rarity was already en route to Twilight's location to provide cover. She needed not worry about her. Rarity was always aiming for perfection and beauty, even in combat. Killing with grace, making her appear like a dancing white reaper, followed by her terrible giggle. Finding her target location, Twilight descended on ancient wings of violet, hoping her commanders were taking their duties to heart and not lost in some trance of slaughter. Heavy wings that could be heard over the intense battlefield were followed by heavy thump as Twilight made landfall. Clutching her staff in one hand, she rose to her feet. In the distance, she could make out Rarity and her troops as they butchered their way to her. Looking further, she saw what she most feared. True, Pinkie and Rainbow had taken their objectives, but saw us for the next phase of her operation. Well, that remained to be seen. Twilight let out a grunt of frustration as she moved forward to locate her commanders and their over-enthusiastic approach to slaughter. Twilight called out over the box. She was returned with the insane laughter of a maniac indulged in bloodshed and butchering. She called again, but was only returned with laughter. Twilight rolled her eyes at this and grunted, taking a deep breath. Before she called out again, though, her eyes were torn away from the pink pony and gave focus on the sky. Rainbow Dash descended with a battle cry and a squad of guardsmen and their Space Marine allies. Activating her twin chainswords, she lunged at them, cutting them into ruin. Pinkie acknowledged her actions with laughter over the box. Twilight again returned her focus on the pink pony, and her Lehman Rush Demolisher tank, or as Pinkie called it, her party cannon. Rarity, having made her way to Twilight moments ago, was casting shields all around her and Twilight, deflecting enemy fire. Twilight called out again, but Pinkie cut her off, sending a wide Fox communication.
Oh my gosh, hold on to your horse. I am just about to be brilliant.
Her sentence was followed by a massive explosion as a Night Titan's head exploded, collapsing backwards. Frustration overtaking her, Twilight shouted over the box at Pinkie. Pinkie, somewhat sarcastic, finally answered her.
Yes, Twilight?
Composing herself as not to show her frustration, Twilight relayed her orders to her and Rainbow Dash, who was showing off yet again. Annoyed, a displeased but obedient Pinkie replied.
Oh, you joke,
Letting out a heavy sigh, Twilight hoped that her honor guard were having a much more easier time with Applejack and Fluttershy. Warpony, Friendship is Chaos, was written and directed by Insanity Pie. Okay, that's the first half. I'm gonna do the second half hopefully in a couple of days, and by the latest I would say Wednesday, from the Honor Guard's point of view now, catching up with Applejack and Fluttershy. I hope you've all enjoyed. I'm gonna give a little bit more description in the next series, or the next half of this, in regards to more of what they are. Rarity's body, Twilight's body, nobody's the same. They're more 40k now, so I'll be giving more description and hints just exactly what they are, and we'll go from there. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe, and don't forget, don't forget to check out Scribbler, because she is amazing, and the story in the very beginning is actually hers. One of the stories she'd actually read, I just took a small clipping of it at the very end to give more of an understanding of Twilight's state of mind and where she's coming from. And yeah, that's about it. So shout outs to her, kudos, check her out, she has a lot of amazing stories, and stay tuned. Later.